I welcome you to Remembrance Day 2020. We often are gathered every year for the last 5 or 6 years at Goma at South Brisbane, as well as small gatherings right across Queensland. But like everyone, due to COVID-19 this year, we all have to keep our distance and gather in even smaller groups, and many people are unable to leave their home at all. So today we're here with this film and message because Remembrance Day has been a tradition since 1999, honouring the first Ford inquiry report that was tabled to the Queensland Government. And for all those people with lived experience of growing up in institutions, in foster care, orphanages, group homes, being placed in detention centres, mental health institutions, people who came out from England without the consent of their parents, Indigenous people who were moved simply because of their race from their family and children. We remember the courage that all of you have had and the determination with the cause of getting corrective action by government for a more just approach to remembering your legacy, and also to make sure that child protection policies today do not remain or go back to any of the abuses or trauma of the past. Minister Di Farmer has a message, and I'd like to introduce her to you today.
I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we gather and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I acknowledge Karen Walsh, the CEO of Micah Projects, and all of the forgotten Australians who are watching this today. Since becoming minister, it's been the most enormous privilege for me to share in the acknowledgement of Remembrance Day with you all. And obviously this year with COVID-19, we're not able to come together physically, but I know that we are all there in spirit. I want to thank you for the enormous honour that I have had of speaking with so many of you who have for so many years been trying to tell your story and telling your story and sharing those personally with me, for your honesty and frankness with me about what you think needs to be done. And I want you to know that the Premier herself, who asked me to pass on her apologies, the Premier herself and I, every single day, it is our goal, and we work towards making sure that your voices are heard and that we are doing the best that we possibly can to right the wrongs. In the last year since Remembrance Day, there have been some significant milestones, and I want to really thank the Truth, Healing and Reconciliation Task Force chaired by Bob Atkinson, but with the most magnificent membership of people who are doing their best to make sure that your views, that your needs are represented. We know that in the time since I spoke to you last for Remembrance Day, we've removed the statute of limitations for serious physical and connected psychological abuse, so that forgotten Australians can now make civil claims. As you know, we've been working very hard with the National Redress Scheme to make sure that institutions who needed to be putting their hand up did so by the deadline of the 30th of June, and I was very pleased to see that no Queensland institutions were named. And I want to tell you how hard the team in my department have worked to make sure that there were no significant institutions in Queensland who were not doing the right thing, and we will not step back from placing pressure on any institutions in the future for future claims. That is a huge priority for us. You may know that we currently have some legislation before Parliament, and in fact we hope to pass it in September, which actually makes it a criminal offence for failure to report or failure to protect a child from sexual abuse, and that includes any information gained during the religious confessional. We want you to know that what you have told us is important. what came out in the Royal Commission, that we take those so seriously, that they are our priorities, and we will work every single day to make sure that we do those things right. So to all of you, thank you for your bravery, thank you for your courage, thank you for your voice, thank you for what you do to not only right the wrongs of the children of the past, but make sure the children of now and the future are kept safe. We remember you, we thank you, and we are with you.
Hello, my name is Alan. I am a long-term advocate for forgotten Australians with lived experiences. I would like to introduce these wonderful people as they come forward to read out the statements of acknowledgement today. Reading the acknowledgement of the stolen generation is Stephen Martin.
We acknowledge and remember our Indigenous brothers and sisters who were in the institutions because of their colour of their skin and the policies that took them away from their families and their land. We acknowledge the solidarity we have with them in the sharing of our experience of our childhood.
Reading the acknowledgement of people who, as children, were in the out-of-home care system is Brian Lang.
We acknowledge all former residents, including those who identify as forgotten Australians and former British child migrants who spent their childhood in institutional care, orphanages, foster care, adult mental health facilities, youth detention centres, and individuals who were institutionalised due to their disabilities.
Reading the acknowledgement of those who experienced institutional abuse is Gloria Lovely.
We acknowledge those who experienced abuse while in the care of institutions, including parishes, sporting clubs, boarding schools, and youth clubs. We acknowledge the pain that they have endured as a result of abuse by those who were trusted to care for children.
Reading the acknowledgement of those affected by forced adoptions is Lana Sad.
We acknowledge the women who, as mothers, were denied fundamental rights and responsibility to love and care for their children. We recognise the lifelong consequences of forced adoption practices on mothers, fathers, children, siblings, grandparents and extended families who shared the pain and sufferings of past injustices and separation from family.
Reading the acknowledgement of young people is Jessica Hart.
We acknowledge the vulnerability of children and young people today who live with the impact of intergenerational loss of family, poverty, trauma and disconnection from community and culture on their lives.
Reading the acknowledgement of advocacy and support is Jess Lee Chi.
We acknowledge the continued need for advocacy and support for children and young people today. We acknowledge the need for a system which values families, culture and community as central to the lives of children. We acknowledge the need to ensure our child protection system values and invests in the preservation of families and ensures an alternative system of care is available which is safe, nurturing and accountable for children and young people.
Now I invite Ms. Karen Walsh to read an acknowledgement.
We acknowledge and affirm the courage of all people who have experienced childhood abuse in institutional settings. We affirm their determination in the face of denial and powerful institutions in breaking the silence and being a voice for reform and justice. We recognise that while change has been slow, change has occurred, and we affirm the place in history of Queensland that those who have experienced abuse have claimed in daring to be voices for that change.